So I'm Vladimir. I work for VPME. Well, I am VPME.de. I make Eurorack modules since 2016. I make the one module that you can see from space with lots of LEDs, circles. You have seen it probably.
The Euclidean.
Exactly,
Yes.
Euclidean circles.
Fantastic.
Trigger sequence.
What is your favorite knob or fader or switch on a piece of gear that you've made?
Actually, it's the little toggle switches that I have, like the 2-way or 3-way toggle switches. I have one customer that has one of my modules, and he said, I've been riding that switch all night long during his live performance, and they never break down. And it's like, it's just a very tiny switch, very high quality Taiwanese part, and I just love them because I never had to repair any of them.
What bit of your gear are you particularly proud of?
I should say, of course, Euclidean circles, because it's the module that brought me into the whole Eurorack thing. But I would say now it's probably the quad drum, so the four voice drum module that I made a couple of years ago. Because it seems to be, I am not a musician, I'm more an electric engineer, but I see people do things with it, and then I have to ask them, how did you do that? And I designed it, and so basically it surprises. It surprises even me.
How do you see your gear in the landscape of of music?
That's a question that I probably cannot answer, because, as I said before I started Eurorack, I wasn't even much into electronic music. I'm a very bad bass player, so probably in the whole landscape, I have some very good customers of mine that are really also deep in the musical side of things, and they could probably answer more. So my answer is very unphilosophic. I like to be part of the whole scene. The scene is awesome. Customers are awesome. The other manufacturers are awesome. Basically, it's I'm going to say we're all happy friends together. So,
what music has inspired you to make music gear?
Well, again, that's a question that is that's different, because I come from the engineering background. I saw somewhere on the internet a circle of LEDs and thought, "Oh, I could make something with that." And then it became a trigger sequencer. So I always come more from the technical side than from the music side. Now I listen to a lot of electronic music. I'm rediscovering a lot of music from the past. I still have a playlist of about 3 years to catch up. Again, I'm not your typical Eurorack manufacturer, but I'm slowly getting into it.
What is the most surprising tip or trick that you've discovered about a piece of gear that you've made?
That was actually when I made the circles. I went to a good friend of mine who is a really expert musician. He knows all the music theory. And I showed him that the circles can go up to audio rate, and then he just turned a few knobs, and he showed me, yes, everybody knows overtones, but did you know there's also undertones? So the other kind of series, and he made like a chord with basically audio rate clock division, and suddenly we had a chord playing. He said, oh, that's something I never thought of.
But how did you get into music gear making?
Again, as I said, by accident. I have a good friend of mine that I talked to for years on the internet about all kinds of things like embedded computers and so. And at some point he mentioned that he also does Eurorack, and I asked him, what's Eurorack? And he showed me Eurorack, and I said, but that's like 90s test gear, all those rack thingies. I know that. So that's how he got me into the Eurorack thing.
How do you most often start a new piece of gear? I mean, where do the ideas come from?
That's the toughest question of all. Somehow they're there. Very often it's just something I see somewhere. As I said, the circles came from because I saw a circle of LEDs. Yeah. And the quad drum came because I said, after I did the circle, maybe I can square it. So I make a square. So it was clear that it has to be one voice in each corner, because after circles, probably the next thing is going to be something triangular or something.
Yeah. How do you know when a piece of gear is finished?
That's a really tough one, because actually most of my modules are digital, so you could do software updates, but actually I try not to do software updates.
Yeah.
On the first version of Circles, I worked for like a year on it, and it came on the market, and this one even didn't have the possibility to do a software update. And except for a few tiny bugs, it basically works. So I try to do that the basic functionality is there from day one.
Yeah.
On Quad Drum, there have been quite a few updates, because people can put their own files, so you never know what they're going to bring. It worked with all the files I had, but of course people found some obscure files from like the 80s that didn't work, so I had to do some updates. But apart from that, I try not to be that cycle where there's an update every month. I am happy when people just get it and just can use it, and they don't have to download a gigabyte of updates. I hate that for the stuff that I own. Stuff like, first thing you do is you install updates.
Yeah.
I like stuff to work out of the box.
What is the best creative or production advice that you've ever heard?
Well, in terms of music production, I don't know. In terms of gear production, one of the first things I learned from this guy that got me into Eurorack, he said, the first thing you have to learn is to say no. Because if you ask customers, what do you want, you'll get so many things that you'll never stop developing.
Exactly.
You have to understand that even if some idea sounds great because that one guy has that one use case, sometimes you just have to say no.
Yeah.
And that's something that you have to learn.